October 7 shook me in the deepest part of my being. I grew up in Israel, and Israel was never a comfortable, safe place to live in. When I grew up as a teenager, the second Intifada started in 2000. So bus was exploding all over, and it was a mess. And only when I left Israel in my late 20s, only when I left Israel, I realized that all my nervous system is so heightened, so stressed, because I grew up in a very stressful place. It took me years, as we were talking until now, to downregulate my nervous system. Stepping and I landed in Israel on October 5th. I was meditating in the morning, and I felt I have like a bell on my phone that tells me, okay, 30 minutes, 1 hour has ended. It was much longer than it used to be. It's an alarm. Oh, okay. There's something going on.
What's good, Fatherhood? Joining you for Uncommon, the Dad Work Podcast, episode 48, or something like that, with very close friend of mine coming up here. Oh, Ben Avraham. Did I get it?
You pronounced my name correctly. Better than most people in the USA. Good job, Adam.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I was trying to think of if there's a Jewish word for me being a terrible pronunciator of your name, but
No, what we can come up with, and let's see how the conversation will go. Then we'll come up.
maybe you'll call me some names.
Yeah.
But everybody, this is my close friend of mine, as well as men's work coach, facilitator, all of that fun stuff. And I'm so excited to have you here today, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Good to see you.
So really relevant opening space for us today, because you and I are about to co-lead a retreat together. But you
Hell
just
yeah.
came back from a retreat, a week-long retreat, and some guys have never been on retreat. So I'm curious, what was this week-long retreat that you were on? And
Yeah,
what'd you work on?
yeah. So this week-long retreat was actually with my primary teacher at the moment. His name is John Weiling. He's one of the longest students of David Data. This is kind of like the lineage of David Data, and one of our teachers, Zad Baraka, is also from that lineage. What made us knowing each other. So John Weiling is also one of those teachers, one of these students, and I'm in a 3-year long process with John Weiling, which is teaching me also men's work, also another aspect of men's work, and also polarity work, which is a lot of what we're doing in relational to the feminine, which is amazing and scary and a lot of things. So a lot of this work is embodied. So it's actually a lot of breath work, a lot of embodiment, and a lot of retraining our nervous system while we're next to another being, not while I'm alone in my cave. There's a totally different kind of work that happens when you just do it with men and when you do it also with the other gender. Yeah. So that's what we did in the last week. We worked a lot about holding consciousness while love is streaming in the room.
Yeah, is his name John Gottman? I think that's him. He's a big time marriage researcher. He has the marriage lab, and he puts couples in there, and he tells them to have heated conversations, and that he measures everything. He measures cortisol, measures blood pressure. He pays attention for the four horsemen, like contempt and all of that fun stuff. But one of the biggest things that he sees before any of the communication breakdowns happen is elevated stress response.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so bring me into the breath work and self-regulation piece. Obviously, you guys listening to me, you've heard me talk about this, but bring us into that, what that is, the importance of that from your background.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I can just talk about myself for a moment. I think it will be the easiest to talk about my experience. I grew up in a household where my boundaries were keep being disrespected by my mom, my brother. Actually, my father did respect my boundaries, but my mom didn't. So I grew up with the idea of the feminine cannot really respect my boundaries, and I felt uncomfortable even naming my boundaries, even putting clear boundaries. So every time I got someone even close on not respecting my boundaries, immediately I got to a stress response. Like you said, the cortisol level, immediately. Fight or flight, everything just went up. All my guards would go up since I was a child. And I used my own defense mechanism. And back then, when I was a teenager, when I was a child, I didn't have the tools that I have today. Nowadays, I know that the deeper I breathe, the deeper I breathe, more I can hold. The more I can do it live, it's kind of like practicing. It's kind of like reps. So what we do there in those retreats, we actually practicing the nervous systems. The more I can be next to another being, whether it's a man or a woman, and being in an elevated state, like a stress level, but breathe deeper, I can sharpen that muscle. I can be more aware. I can be more present when I'm at home with my woman or with my kids or at other scenarios in my life. So the way I see it, I think you see it the same way, Rob. Those retreats are not just there to have big experiences, are there to actually have reps on the mat. Right? Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned, and I imagine a lot of guys feel this because we're in the era of feminizing our boys. And I think that's come with a lot of single parent households or moms were, or homes where mom was really the leader within the house. And that meant mom had a lot of control and influence over the boy. And a lot of moms can struggle with letting go. And so for you, that the experience was upregulation. So what how did that show up for you as a kid and as an adolescent? And how is that carried over to you as an adult?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So I grew up with a mom, a very strong mom, still a strong mom. Bless her soul, but she was very she was the man of the house. The easiest way to say it. She was holding the masculine, while my father, she took away the power from my father, and that's how I grew up with not clear boundaries, lashing at me, beating me, putting me down in a way. And I have so much love to this being. I have so much love to my mom. I know she didn't do it from wanting to hurt me, but this was her way of communicating with me. She was hurt and she was communicating from her hurt place. What it did to me, it shut me down a lot, and it brought me to a place where I didn't feel comfortable communicating my needs because my needs were never met. I didn't feel comfortable communicating my boundaries. I didn't feel comfortable saying that I'm hurt because I might be attacked. Mm. And over time, I developed different types of defense mechanisms. Each person's got their own way of masking the pain that he has. My way of masking is over positivity. Only when I started my healing journey, I realized how I masked all my childhood in being, oh, I had a great childhood. Everything was great. Everything was okay. Everything was great. But only when I went deep into the healing process, I saw like, oh, that's my way of escaping feeling the pain. Fantasizing, over optimizing, over just escaping what's real, what's there. So the work for me was actually going into the shadow, going into my pain and sitting with that and not escaping it. And I did it in different ways with even vipassana, just sitting with what's there. Even breath work can bring up a lot of emotions, just sitting with what's there. And going back to your question, I noticed that this pattern that I had with my mom kept coming back with all my relationship with women. I needed to heal. There's something deep in myself in order to be able to be in a healthy relationship with women, with friends, with myself. So that that pain threw me to a lifelong journey to to heal that part of myself, those core wounds, my father wounds and my mother wounds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What kept coming up? So you said until you turned in, you actually did the healing work. These things, the patterns kept coming up. What were the patterns for you?
Yeah. So my main pattern was avoidance. I would avoid. I would avoid. I would drop people. I would drop myself. Every time I would build relationships, and when shit will hit a bit to the fan, I would just snap out and just run away. I would be afraid of commitments. So I had a lot of things, whether it's projects or relationship with people, that I would just build, and it was halfway built, half baked, and I would just run away. I would run away from so many things. So at the beginning, as most people, I told myself the story. No, it's him, it's her, it's this specific project. This is the problem. It's not me. It's not me that's running away. It's the story that makes me run away. But with doing this work, I noticed that there was an emotion that keeps coming back, an emotion that keeps coming back, and I felt unsafe feeling that emotion. So I needed to work and rebuild my nervous system to be able to sit with my emotions that I was so afraid to feel. I was so afraid to feel those emotions. I felt lost. I had no guidance. I think most men don't have guidance, but I know that I didn't have any guidance because as I had a strong mom, not that I have a weak dad. My dad is amazing and beautiful, but he didn't give me the guidance I needed as a boy, as a young man. So I felt lost, whether it's in my nervous system, my relationships, how to provide. I just felt lost.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a pattern of avoidance for you that was coming up. And I've experienced that in relationship and also getting a bill that is uncomfortable and putting it on the counter and leaving it there for weeks and maybe a month until it's almost due because it's uncomfortable because I don't want to face the discomfort of the emotion or having to have a conversation.
Oh yeah.
And you also brought up this as a kid, this pattern of toxic positivity is what Viktor Frankl calls it.
Yeah.
This like incessant positivity, like everything's good all the time. And I know
Yeah.
as a guy who in this culture that we live in, who really came up learning how to bury things and just to shove it down, no room for emotion. I just have to keep going. And yes, we do have to keep going. Society continues to run on men's backs. We do have to keep going. But that suppression, all that pressure has to go somewhere.
Oh yeah.
And we can cover it over with positivity. They're like little band-aids. We can cover it over with you brought up, I think, the dreamer. So in what ways was the dreamer showing up for you?
The dreamer has so every trait we have has a shadow part of it. The more you use it, you might be misusing it, right? So dreamer is a superpower I have. I'm a visionary. It's easy for me to vision things years from now. Like everything I built so far in my life, it's something I envisioned at some point. It's easy for me to bring vision out of people. I'm a very visionary person. I love to dream and I love to build and plan. But when I'm using it, that's using it. But when I'm misusing it, I'm actually misusing it in order to avoid being here right now. Right here, right now, there's an experience in my body. I'm feeling something. Maybe it's tension, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's fear, maybe it's excitement, maybe it's shame, whatever it is. I'm feeling something and it's around my body. It could be different emotions, different sensations that are happening at the same time. And because I was not accustomed, I didn't teach, I was not taught how to get acquainted with those places in myself. I ran away. I bailed. Like you bailed on your bill on the table, I bailed from reality. Yeah. So I kept dreaming about the next thing. What's the next thing? What's over there? 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 Not what's here. Mm-hmm. So my work was being here, right now. And going back to breath work, there's nothing, there's not a better tool I know to be here than to connect to our breath because our breath is happening right now, not later. We don't know if we're going to have our breath later.
I know as an adult man, really easy for me to escape and avoid through work, a really common one. I could sit here and design websites for myself and other people all day long. I could do creative projects all day long and avoid the work that actually needs to be done. And I think a lot of guys understand this, but they're not quite awake to how potent it is. They escape, they avoid through porn and through the gateway to porn, which is Instagram, because there's all the booty and all the titty pages on Instagram. And everybody, if
Yeah.
you click their links, they take you to their X, which takes you straight to their OnlyFans. All that stuff exists. And we avoid the discomfort and we get something that allows us to go, the breath after visit the Pornhub or whatever, and feel that relief for a moment. We never really face what's underneath the surface that's causing that pressure buildup, that tension in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's, I know that in the beginning, when I start sitting with what's here, I felt a bit lost. Like there are so many things happening, so many things. And I know in the beginning when I work with guys, now I'm more experienced in the just sit and be with here. A lot of guys in the beginning don't know even how it feels there. It's kind of like a cloud in the beginning because you're so not accustomed to just noticing the sensation. And there are so many things happening right now that want our attention. Some of them has traumas, some of them joyful moments even. We are escaping, sometimes feeling our own joy because we are more comfortable, more comfort staying in what we're accustomed to. You know that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk breath work, I think heart rate variability, which is a standard fitness measurement and health measurement. And also, the more your heart rate variability capacity, the more your resilience to stress capacity is. And we have low heart rate variability. We need to reach for things outside of us to stay level. And it's really unsettling to the nervous system to do something new and to get out of your comfort zone. And so we fall into I call it the smaller self patterns of who we've always been, the ways that we were behaving in order to fit in order to survive, bringing up the coping patterns that you talked about. And it's why it's so easy to get stuck there. And even if you're like, I'm going to do it this time, I'm going to be disciplined this time and break this cycle, whatever it is, it's so easy to get sucked back in because that is so hardwired into the nervous system that when you get tired, the shit hits the fan at work, or you're just not feeling good, you tend to fall back into that pattern. So you brought up the need to feel and open to what the present experience is, which is
Yeah.
the gateway to the present as well as the breath. And you said something a minute ago, and I think that both of these tie together and they get down to the roots. You brought up needing to feel the emotion you were experiencing, and you brought up the story that was tied in with that. So I'm curious if you can unpack that a little bit more too.
Sure. So let me see. How can I break it down the best way? Yeah. So a lot of times when I ask people, including myself, to tell me how you feel, a lot of times there will be a story there, like I call it the cloud, that will create a lot of a fog between me and my emotions. So You can see a couple conversing about an argument. They're arguing about something. Why you didn't call and ask how I am when you called me? Why you hung up the phone earlier when I needed you to tell me I love you? You love me? Something like that. What they actually saying, each one of them is holding a story. And the story is a lot of times is pointing a finger to another person. Nobody is a villain in his own story, right? Is either a victim or a hero, right? So we're holding up a story. But the story is not the truth. The story is just a story. Below the story, beneath the story is the fog, is the cloud. Beneath the story, there's the truth. And the truth is the body. In the body, we can find the sensation and the emotion. And the body never lies. Never lies. The story can change. The story, every time I will tell it to be different. And the story has a lot of words and ideas and assumptions. But the story is preventing from me being vulnerable. Every time I will tell you, you know, Rob, yesterday I called you and you told me this and I told you this. It's not telling you actually that there was an emotion there that I felt when you did something. So if we break it down, beneath the story, there is a feeling and there is a need. Always. And there's in most cases, when people are getting too stuck in the story, they're avoiding noticing and mentioning and recognizing that there is a need unmet. And there's a feeling that maybe they don't want to admit, they want to feel, they want to sit with. And the more I'm lingering and staying in the story realm, the less I'm in the feeling realm, the more I will stay in the story realm, and it will prevent me from actually feeling. And we know it by now. The less I feel, the more I suppress, and it will come out in some leaky way. Maybe I will come as anger, maybe as a passive aggressive, maybe as avoidance, like it came out with me. So all those patterns are coming. I'm coming up just because I'm not actually sitting with my feelings. And I'm getting stuck in the story of me being right, or me being a victim, of me wanting other people to pat on my back. Oh, poor baby. Below it, beneath it, there is a feeling there that my inner child, little Rob, really need to feel. And a lot of us are avoiding of feeling that, unfortunately. Because it's scary to be vulnerable. It's fucking scary. So going back to the retreat we're holding, you and me, what are we doing? Everybody asking, what's happening in the retreat? What's happening in the retreat? So we do a lot of embodiment, we do a lot of breath work, but the idea is dropping the story and feeling the feeling, whatever it is. All of us have stories and all of us have feelings. Most of our days, most of the time, people are communicating their stories. In the retreat, we're going deep into the emotion, deep into the need, deep into the breath. And we allow ourselves to wash it away and not suppress it. And we're doing it while we're being witness, and we hold it together with a group of men, which is, in my opinion, the most powerful way you can do it.
It's really uncomfortable to be seen.
Oh my God. It's uncomfortable to be seen in your vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like a cold plunge. It's uncomfortable. It's so scary to go into the cold plunge, but when you go out of it, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Best feeling in the world.
After the initial shock and that, then you get the, this is good.
And what do you do when you go to a cold plunge? Let's look at two ways of getting to the cold plunge, right? One way is like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I promise you, the person who's going like this, it will not last there for 10 seconds. And you have the second way of going there. Take a deep breath. Let's go in. Everybody are holding it together, and we're breathing deep while we are in the discomfort. Breathing deep because we're training our nervous system. So the same way, while we're being witnessed, while we are holding the vulnerability, let's breathe deeper. Let's hold it together. We're not dropping. We're holding.
So I'm curious, what is the cost of us getting stuck in the story? Not just with ourselves, we talked about the avoidance, the coping patterns, but how does it impact our lives? Being stuck in the story and avoiding the emotion. And then what happens when we start to face that and we gain the skill of being able to see it and to navigate it?
I think each excuse me, each person's got its own defense mechanism, its own pattern, its own personality. A lot of our personality traits is our shadow and our light, right? All comes together. And each person will get stuck in their own internal dance, right? I can tell you on my story that when I started my journey, I saw more and more my partner, and I kept, as I said earlier, I kept blaming this story. So, big part of my life, for example, a big pattern that I had to face with was my relationship to money. I had to work around my relationship with money. So I kept, as I said earlier, I kept building things and then letting them die and then abandoning them and then running away, building projects. And then when shit hit the fan, I would run away. And that never allowed me to really build something properly. Um, I would always start from the second floor, not from the foundations, because the second floor is much more exciting than the foundation, and then it will crash always. So my pattern was not really staying, not really doing things slow, not really building long-term plans, or jumping between things. I was excited more about the shiny things than the real things. That kept me jumping between different things instead of just being here. And it was mostly because my nervous system was a wreck. I had a very unstable nervous. Now I have, hopefully, a healthier nervous system. So I can hold much deeper plans, wider experiences that I used to. And I can say that just because of the work I did, the relationship with my money is totally in a different place. The relationship with women is a different place. The relationship that I have with my friends, with my family is in a different place because I'm no longer looking to blame the circumstances. I'm taking responsibility, emotional responsibility. Can relate to that?
Mm-hmm. And taking that emotional responsibility, what does that enable you to do differently?
Mm. I can tell you that I was I was a serious monogamist. I was jumping. I was moving between one woman to another. I was not jumping, and 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 I was always living them. I was always living them when she did a fan. I was finding something that was wrong in them, or in the relationship, or not exciting enough. And then at some point, around the time you and me actually met a few years ago, when we were in the midst of in our training of the men's work, I I decided I no longer want to hold this pattern. Something in me needs to die. This this dreamy kid that cannot really be with himself, with being lonely, with being alone. So I was practicing how it is to just sit with my loneliness. I remember back in this period of my life, I was just sitting in my house, California, I remember feeling suddenly the loneliness coming up. And what would happen normally for in, in the days before that, in the years before that, I would either find someone to hang out with or scroll or maybe find myself in a relationship I don't want to be in or a relationship I should end, but I'm afraid to leave. But in this time, I decided I want to go deep into my shadow and sit with it. So I practiced for weeks, for months. Just remember looking at my phone, closing my phone, putting it on the table, and just sit and feeling the loneliness arise. Just sitting with that, sitting with that, sitting with that. In the beginning, it was the most scariest thing I ever done in my life. It's like an unknown space. All my childhood trauma came up. All my past pain, past wounds came up. Very uncomfortable in the beginning, but after a while, I felt very comfortable there. I felt like through the practices you and me got in our training, through the practices I got from other teachers, I was able to 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 deepen and strengthen my nervous system while I'm feeling lonely, while I'm feeling alone. And that led me to eventually, with other processes I did, to have my fiance literally knocking on my door, the woman of my dreams knocking on my door, the woman that I was calling in for years, coming to my house because I was ready, because I did the work, because I was a different person than what I was before. That enabled me to be in the relationship of my dreams actually, and now I actually help men getting the relationship of their dreams, magnetizing their relationship of their dreams, getting free from the patterns that are holding them back.
Yeah, more often than not, it's us. I remember when Zad gave us the mantra, it's me. It's me. It's us that's holding us back in some way from having the relationship with the woman that we're with so often. And most of my guys here, you guys are married. It's not too late for you to do this work. Actually, right now, even if you guys are not friends right now, it's the best time for you to start. Masculine initiates, the feminine reciprocates. That's how it goes. Where you lead, your relationship will follow. So, and this led you to having the woman of your dreams knock on your door. Now you guys are going to get married.
Yes, yes.
Congratulations, man. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I'm super excited about that. She's a gem.
We got 18 minutes left. I did want to hit something. So we're talking a lot about this self-regulation work.
Yeah.
And really we're training the qualities of presence and like unshakability, resilience, if we want to use that word, inside the nervous system. So now no matter what the emotion is that you're feeling, no matter what's happening around you, you get to hold it together. You get to recognize here's this emotion, here's the story that's underneath it. Wow, that's interesting. That's one of our magic mantras from inside of Kings. Wow, how interesting. Thanks, mind. And then you can actually deal with what's in front of you. And I want to bring this up because, well, you and I think we messaged really consistently at this time. And I was worried about you because I love you, man. I don't love everybody I meet, but I just want to give you a hug, And you were in Israel on October 7th. Your whole family, your whole friends were there. So I'm curious, what was that like to be there, to really be there during that? What was the impact that that had for you?
Yeah, wow. That's a heavy question, and I love that you have the balls to ask that. So October 7 shook me in the deepest part of my being actually. So I grew up in Israel, and Israel was never a comfortable, safe place to live in. It was safe, but also it was very unsafe. When I grew up as a teenager, the second Intifada started in 2000. So bus was exploding all over, and it was a mess. And only when I left Israel in my late 20s, only when I left Israel, I realized that all my nervous system is so heightened, so stressed, because I grew up in a very stressful place. So it took me years, as we were talking until now, to downregulate my nervous system in different ways, with different mentor, with different therapists, with different teachers. So I lived abroad. I lived outside of Israel for years, almost a decade. Coming back to Israel after years of not being there, visiting my parents, visiting my friends. And again, it was in the midst of me sitting with my loneliness. I'm doing deep work to call in my woman, to downregulate my nervous system. And I'm stepping, and I landed in Israel on October 5th. And I remember me feeling so open, so beautiful. It was actually just after the intensive, the retreat we were on. Like, I think it was a few days afterwards. We were in this retreat in LA, and October 7 was probably one of the most devastating things I ever had to witness in my life. I remember, like, I was actually meditating in the morning. I meditate every morning. I was meditating in the morning, and I felt I have like a bell on my phone, like that tells me, okay, 30 minutes, 1 hour has ended, and it actually came from. It was much longer than it used to be. It used to be like, a gong, but it was a very long gong. I was very proud of myself. Oh, it's an alarm. Oh, okay. There's something going on. Something going on, and got me by surprise. And eventually I realized, okay, we are facing something that we never faced before. Since the Holocaust, the Jewish nation never faced something as horrible as that. And in the following week, when I stayed there, I felt myself shaking, shaking so deeply. I did my best to support my friends and family, but this is something that I carried for months, feeling this deep feeling of just feeling unsafe. And I can tell you that if I wouldn't have the tools that I have today, maybe I would still feel unsafe today. It took me a few months to go back and regulate myself and break the story and break the emotion and feeling it and allow myself to really feel it, allow myself to breathe deeper while I'm going to the cold plunge and be able to be an anchor and support also to my Israeli and Jewish friends and also my Palestinian friends. I think both sides got a big hit. I don't. It's not about sides. It's about the act of terror, of invasive terror, of both sides. And my heart goes to both sides. I wish more people would have the tools that we are practicing to be, especially in that side of the world, in that area of the world. They need it. I needed it when I was there, so I know how much they needed it. Yeah.
I think that's one, thank you. Thank you for being so real and vulnerable. And secondly, I think it's so powerful to hear that because you talked about your childhood, but you didn't bring up that part of it. And so you had a childhood that, well, it set you on edge. And then also growing up in that environment, also, you're very much on edge. High sympathetic dominance. And a lot of guys grow up in tough situations. A lot of guys see combat. A lot of guys serve in the military and don't see combat. And I've had veterans come through this work.
Yeah.
And just from the embodiment work, because you can go to all kinds of men coaches, you can read all the books. Embodiment, it's nothing different than going and doing sets and reps. I'm pointing over there because my squat rack's over there. You're doing sets and reps to change the physiology, to change your physical body. That's what we mean by embodiment work. It doesn't matter where you're at. There's so much that you can do to change this inside, to relieve that pressure, so you can start showing up differently and start, well, facing the uncomfortable things, start doing things in your life, and start cultivating the relationships that you really want. Whether you haven't met the woman that you want to marry yet, you're trying to call her in for the love of God,
Yeah.
help me find her, or you're in a marriage and it's not what you want it to be, or you are a father and you're not showing up the way that you want to because you don't know what to do with the emotions. So they catch you by surprise and you're like, I can't believe that I did that.
Hmm.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And to piggyback on something you said, you were mentioning like you can read as much as you want about that, but you cannot read your experience. You can only experience your experience. And this is why such a believer in those retreats. Whether it's whether it's a men's retreat, polarity retreat, any type of retreat that takes you through an experiential retreat. It's not about talking about it. It's not about reading about it. It's about actually feeling it in your body and getting the tools to face it, you know?
Yeah, I think that our pressure or stress, emotion, whatever term we want to use, it can be expressed. We have to get it out. And I think of it as an electrical ground. That's something we need to be able to do as the masculine so we don't end up
Yeah.
exploding that all over people in our lives or turning inward and then it comes out in coping patterns. Or it can be suppressed. And that's how that pressure builds. And that's how we end up messing things up in our lives. And being able to show up to the actual physical experience. We've got a retreat coming up. It's really where it's at. You can read about it so much, but you can't actually experience it and you can't shift the physiology without doing that work. And there is nothing like being held is not right the word, but being witnessed, being called out and being called up by a circle of men. And whether it's 200,000, 300,000, or a million years, depending on recent discoveries, we've been around for a long time as humans, and groups of men have worked together for a long time as humans. The only time that we haven't is recent history, and we're falling apart for it. And so
Yeah.
this is really where it's at, is being held in integrity, being called up and called out and going through this physical work with a group of men that changes everything. I know when I came back from the retreat that you and I were at, and I've been doing this work forever. Well, it's not forever, but a long time. I started my journey of self regulation and starting to own my inner world around 2016, 2017. But then we sat there together and I came back and it was like a BC to AD moment. It was a paradigm shift. And I can look back and I can point to that and say, oh, I had the knowledge, but I wasn't doing it. And there's nothing else that was going to enable me to do it like being in physical presence with other guys and doing it.
Yeah, definitely. You said it so beautifully. Lived in different countries. I lived in India for 2 years. I was meditating in caves in Europe. I was reading all the books, all the ways of how to meditate and how to self regulate and how to do all the things. And I had all the knowledge. I had all the knowledge and I could talk about it. I could lecture about it. And I did. And I would teach people. But only when I got to do the work, only when I got to the retreat, only when I got to sit with other men and be a witness and hold each other there, then it was registered in my body. That was the difference. Before that, it registered in my brain. I understood it, but when it registered in my body, I could not forget it. It's always there now. It's like a core memory. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking from it. It's a totally different thing. And you can only do it only if you experience it through the body. And the best way of doing it is that I found so far is if there's another person who already went there who can take you there by ease transmission.
So for example, we were guided by a person, Zad Baraka, our teacher. He went there himself, so he was able to take us there as well through the experiences. So we were fortunate to have good teachers, you and me, that went there in different ways. And
When they were students, their teachers took them there. So this is why there's a lineage here of people are taking
other people there. Yeah, and I think about this all the time when it comes to my kids and being a father and I'm the leader of the family, whether I like it or not, is that we have to take driver's ed. And in order to drive, you have to get in a car and drive it. And you have to be sitting with somebody who also knows how to drive. Or you can read about it in a book. And you can have somebody teaching you all the content from a book who can't drive themselves. But you never know it because they have all the book knowledge. And you want to show up to a place where a man has been through this, where he embodies it. And that's the only way to actually hand down the transmission. You know, you want somebody, a Sherpa, to guide you up Everest who's been there before. Not just a guy who's read the books and like studied it on Google Maps. Exactly, man. Exactly. So, bringing us towards completion here, we've got the retreat coming up. We got 4 minutes. I wonder if you can fill us in on that, and then we can sign this thing off, man. Love it. So you started talking about it, and just want to say a few things about it. So I call our generation the lost generation. Like what you said, like maybe up until maybe 200 years ago, maybe even less, we used to live more close to each other, whether it was a village, and we used to live more close to each other. Men used to be more with men, used to go to the temple together, work together, used to have rituals, rite of passage, elders, hold each other more accountable.
We have none of this today. We have none of this today. I think maybe for women it's a bit easier because they're more of a social being by their nature.
But for men, it's really hard nowadays. Like we have the pandemic of loneliness pandemic for men. And this is one of the big reasons why, for me, it's really important to get men together to do this work together. We need each other to do this work. We're literally practicing things that you're not, you can go and sit by yourself and practice those things, but you will not go, you can only go as deep as you can take yourself. You need a group of men to take you much deeper. I cannot see what's here. I cannot see my blind spots, no matter how much I'll try. You cannot see yours, but I can see yours and you can see mine. And when we have a group of men doing it together, God, oof.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It goes deep. It goes deep because most men, I was like this as well. I felt uncomfortable being vulnerable next to other men. I felt I cannot trust other men growing up. So
Bringing it back to the retreat, what we're doing, we are reprogramming our belief system of how it is to relate to other men. And we're not doing it just by talking with other men. Hey, how are you, John? I'm good. Thanks, David. No, we're actually practicing deep work together. We're practicing shadow work. We're reprogramming our belief system. We're programming our nervous system. We are doing it through deep breath work and deep embodiment work. Sorry, I just had a cat walk up over here that I don't know. But yes. That's what happened when you talk about mountain work. There's always cats roaming. You brought up the shadow. Exactly. He's the shadow walking over here. All right, man. So the right, it's if I'm correct, June 12th through 15th, Nevada City, California. I'll put the link in the show notes here. We're doing a special registration thing. For those of you guys that want to come in, you will never get it at like this again. So This is and like spots are filling. the lowest price. The lowest price. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like we're giving it away, but we're not.
Because we talked about it, we want to make it accessible to all the men. It's so important to both of you and me. It's like a life mission for both of us. So we want more men to come. So if one of you guys are listening to this, feel the calling, even feel like a curiosity, feel free to reach out to one of us and we'll give you more information about
Shoot us a DM. We got you. All right, where else can we find you?
it. Instagram will be the best place to find me or my website, ombenavraham.com.
Easy enough. All right, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. I love you, man. And I'll talk to you soon.
Love you, man. It was a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Peace.